talks about you, then you are nobody. Then you are nobody. Remember.
All is one reflections, peace and blessings. I am Priestess Oshun Funke, Reverend Priestess Osun Funke, Iyanifa. And today I have the unfortunate task of discussing the murder, the death. We're going to do our best to determine if it's a murder or not. But we are here to talk about the death of Trey Reed, okay? And I'm going to do a metaphysical autopsy. And we're going to just look at the energy surrounding this case and see what we can determine. I have already done one throw, which I will share the board with you. I have not touched it or moved anything since I did it. And I did that throw because I wanted to determine whether I should do a reading on this case or not. And it was an overwhelming absolutely. So that's why we're here. Thank you guys for being with me also. So who is Trey Reed? Trey Reed, and I'm just reading from my notes, you guys, and this is all coming in very quickly to me. I did not know about this case before a couple of hours ago, okay? So I'm done my best to kind of cram and get as much information as I can. I have a feeling that this will be part one of several. So let's just dive right in, okay? So Trey Reed, his name is Demar Travion Reed, known as Trey affectionately by his friends and family. He was 21 years old. He's a black male. He was a black male student at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi. By all accounts, media and statements made by friends and family, he was an engaged and connected person. There's no public record or prior suicidal ideation that has been confirmed or reported as of now. On September 15th, 2025, campus police was notified at 7:05 a.m. Central Standard Time that there was a incident of concern by the pickleball courts on campus at Delta State University. And that situation of concern was Trey Reed hanging by the neck from a tree. Now, a little bit about this day that we're going to talk about at length, because y'all know how I do. On this day, the moon was in Cancer, okay? And the sun was in Virgo. Mercury was direct and not in retrograde on this day. Mars was in Libra. Jupiter was in Cancer. And this day is sandwiched between, oh no, it's not sandwiched. It's just a lunar, it is between lunar eclipses. One on September 7th and one on September 21st. Okay, so that's a little bit about the energy of the day, and I'm going to get more into that as we go on. So the initial report, and again, things are still rapidly coming in. Since I have even decided that I would go live, I've seen that there was an additional statement made. The initial classification, authorities stated that there were no signs of foul play pending investigation. Okay. So before there's even been an investigation, before there's been an autopsy, they came right out the gate and said, yeah, we know that this black boy was found hanging by his neck from a tree, but there's no foul play. The cause of death, however, was not finalized or made public at the time. So they didn't say he died by strangulation. They didn't make any claims about how he died, but they made the effort to say that however he died, however he got that rope around his neck, there was no foul play involved. Y'all, this is just making the hair on the back of my neck stand up. This is so ancestrally charged right now. The coroner's office pushed back against social media rumors that he had broken bones. They indicated that no such trauma had yet been observed. However, a final autopsy is pending. So they didn't come out and say, no, he doesn't have broken bones. They said that broken bones have not yet been confirmed. You understand? Which is different than saying, no, none of his bones were broken. They just said, we are not yet confirming that he has broken bones. Classes. And so this university was about to have its 100th year anniversary celebration. This is happening imminently as we speak. And all of those celebrations have been called off, and classes have also been called off. Students have been given access to counseling services. So I'm going to just dive right into what happened when I asked if we should do this reading. Not a big fan of discussing trauma and death of young Black men. It's not anything that I enjoy. But the nature of this one just felt like it needed to be discussed. Hanging from a tree, that strange fruit, that's an old song, if y'all know what I'm talking about. That's an old song. It's an old occurrence. It's something that has been plaguing our communities for far too long. And here in 2025, for somebody's baby boy to be found hanging from a tree is just out of control. It's out of control. So I asked the ancestors, should I do a reading on this subject? Do I have enough information? Is it something worth, talking about? Is it true what the officials are saying? Is there even a story here? So I'm just going to show you what the board looks like, and then we'll talk about it, right? So bear with me, because I know you can't see everything, but see what you can. And it's more important to listen to me, because y'all don't know what you're looking at anyway. So the first thing right here is the student stone. That's a sodalite over the dove, right? So this indicates that information, something that we learn, is going to give us peace, right? Something that we learn about this case is going to give us peace. Information is, in fact, power. We've been knowing that. And so they're saying, we need to know as much as we can so that we can have peace, enjoy peace, okay? The next thing that I see is the this is tiger's eye over the thumbs up, right? So tiger's eye is a stone. It has to do with creativity. It has to do with using genius, oftentimes ancestral genius, and being inspired by it. And they're saying, listen, if you tap in this moment, things will get better. It'll be a thumbs up for everybody. It'll turn things around, turn those frowns that we have right now upside down. So that's what we are here doing. So we're going to learn things through this exploration that are going to give us peace and allow the ancestors to weigh in on the subject matter so that we might be inspired by them. Here I have the boar's tooth over the throat chakra. And the boar's tooth is like a trophy. It's talking about winning something, winning a battle, winning a prize, persevering, victory, those kinds of things. And over the throat chakra, so it's saying talk about it. Talk about it. Those of you, I just want you to see are familiar with the symbols, then you'll see. So my boar's tooth was right there. And it's saying, speak about it. And that will be a win for everybody, because again, information is power, and there's something in this discovery, in this conversation, that's going to inspire us, that's going to propel us forward towards change, towards victory. So we need to talk about this moment. Over the summer, I have one of my bones. And this has to do with stability, and it also has to do with ancestors, right? And so the summer being the beginning of things, right? The start, or not even the beginning, but the beginning of a period of growth, okay? The beginning of expansion. So not the beginning as in the start, that would be more like spring. But in the summer, things are expanding, things are growing. So it's saying, listen, the ancestors are on the job. They're on the job. They're just beginning their work. They're just beginning their discovery, And if you are thinking about the Egungun, the elevated ancestors, and you're not thinking about personified ancestors or the dearly departed, then we're talking about a collective consciousness. And so if it's saying that is growing, then we're tapping in. We are coming together. We are coming together on one accord around this subject matter. And we're being informed by the stability and input of the Egungun. And those of you who practice Ifa understand that Egun actually means bone. Okay, so it's very significant for this to show up like that. I have another bone on the board. I have the large piece of the wishbone, which is over wisdom. And this is saying what we want is to be informed. What we want is to grow wise behind this occurrence. So as uncomfortable as it is, we need the knowledge, we need the understanding, we need the wisdom. Over empathy, and I'll show you this because this is one that's easy to understand here from the picture. You see we have two people facing each other. And over that, I had the feather, which is upside down, meaning that it's not light, which that would mean that it's light, but it's upside down. So the empathy here is heavy, right? This reading is informed by my ancestors, and my ancestors are saying, we feel you. We're very empathetic for what is happening. We can see what you can't, and we feel for you all, for the collective in this moment. So all of this is what I was reading that made me say, yes, I need to do this broadcast. Over the tile that kind of indicates water slipping through one's hands, I have the skull. And so it's saying, let's stop. Let's stop letting opportunities slip through our fingers, opportunities for this knowledge and wisdom that they spoke about, with the student stone, things that we are meant to learn, the creativity or inspiration, rather, that we are meant to receive from our ancestors, and the wisdom that we are meant to see from, that will be informed by our ancestors, because another bone was over wisdom, right? So they're saying, stop letting those kinds of things slip through your fingers. The time for that is over with. Someone once said, if you want to, well, I won't go there, but they're saying that the time for that is up. Okay. We're not letting those opportunities, that knowledge, that understanding slip through our fingers. Okay. Over betrayal. I want you to look at this tile as well. So over betrayal, you see that's one person like stabbing another in the back. I have the anchor, and it's upside down. So they're saying this wasn't a betrayal. This wasn't somebody that he knew. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't any of those things that people are going to try to say. This wasn't even him betraying himself. Okay. Indicating here that it probably wasn't a suicide. So it wasn't friendly, friendly fire. It wasn't any of those kinds of things. He wasn't betrayed by anyone that he knew. So that's kind of saying a lot coming out the gate. Over interruption of destiny, I have the quarter. So this is saying that this was not supposed to happen. This cost this young man his life and all the blessings therein. This was not part of his story. This was an absolute interruption to his destiny. Over disappointment and heartbreak, I'm going to show you that right here. You can make that out. That's a broken heart. And I have the die on 3. So that's talking about interference. They're saying that there was an interference that has led to this disappointment, this heartbreak. Okay. An interference that led to this interruption of destiny, an interference that we must learn more about to bring peace to our community, to increase empathy in our community. And then finally, over medicine, I have the open bottle cap. We don't have the medicine that we need yet. We have not yet accessed the healing that we need as a culture. Okay. And so perhaps this exploration is going to help us to have those things. So that is the board that I was reading when I decided to go ahead and go live about this case. So now I'm going to go back to my notes and I'm going to just talk a little bit about the case some more. So there are some outstanding, well, let's talk about what is known in this case. Okay. Known and unknown facts in this case. So the official narrative is that the cause of death is undetermined, which I just think is ridiculous. I wish they would stop even saying that. I know that they don't really, the officials in that town probably do not relish in the thought of saying, it was a lynching for obvious reasons. But what they should not be doing is saying that the cause of death is undetermined, because I think that is going to offend people, because it's like you are playing on our intelligence. You're playing on ancestral memory. And we know exactly what it is that we saw, that we are seeing here. But nevertheless, the cause of death, the official narrative is that the cause of death is undetermined. Early statements trend towards no foul play, fueling suicidal assumptions that have not yet been confirmed by autopsy. The community perspective is widespread skepticism, as you can imagine. People are citing Mississippi's history and the methods, racial symbolism, of someone hanging from a tree, and concerns about institutional transparency, which, listen, the last place I would want anything to happen to my Black body is in Mississippi. And my family is from Mississippi. I am from Memphis, Tennessee. Many of you guys know that. 5 minutes, in fact, from the Mississippi border. And so I know well that those lands, all too well. So yeah, I would not want anything to happen to me or anyone that I loved in the state of Mississippi. You are not going to find transparency with the officials there if it's anything concerning racism. As recently as, and I'm probably pushing it to say 10 years ago, it's probably more like 7 or 8 years ago, but let's just call it 10 years ago. My sister, who is an educator, worked at a school in Mississippi, a public high school that still had a Black prom and a white prom. I kid you not. Okay. This is in the state of Mississippi. So when you come outside and you see a Black boy hanging from a tree in Mississippi, you would be a fool to think that the cause of death is undetermined. So the institutional response, of course, they offered a condolence statement, and they are saying that they are cooperating with investigators. But there's no granular investigation roadmap that has been shared with the public yet. So we don't know who's doing what, who they're looking at, who's being interviewed, what's been shut down, what type of forensics is happening. You know, has the FBI descended upon the tree? You know, are they acquiring video? Surely there's video somewhere. You know, and again, in Mississippi, y'all, my heart is literally, my heart space is feeling some type of way as I'm explaining this to you, because it's so ancestral. I'm feeling it in my cells. Oh, okay. Outstanding questions. Was Trey facing institutional, social, or spiritual pressure in the weeks prior? We don't know. We have not heard yet from his family, anyone speaking to his frame of mind, what was happening with him around this time. I'm sure that will be forthcoming, but so far we don't know. So we don't know if he was facing a difficult time, if there's any reason that anyone should think that he had any mental health concerns happening around this time, if there were any ongoing disputes with people that he knew. None of those things do we know about. We don't know if his cell phone has been acquired. Was it on him? Have the investigators, are they looking into that? I imagine that even if they have his cell phone, if they do get into it and all of those kinds of things, it will be a month of Sundays before we know what's going on. I would be interested, however, in maybe looking at his social media to see if there's any indication of what might have transpired, you know, in the days or even hours, you know, prior to this. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. So let's talk about the astrology. Actually, I'm going to read this statement. Y'all forgive me. It's a little bit of a repeat, but I may need to use this when I chop up this recording. So I'm going to just read what we're here today to talk about. So on Monday, September 15th, 2025, 21-year-old student Trey Reed was found hanging from a tree near the pickleball courts at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi. Officials are saying that there is no sign of foul play so far, but the community is not convinced. The method, the place, the pace of information, everything echoes an older, darker story. This is about more than one death. It's about a history that is pushing through from the past to the present in a landscape saturated with ancestral trauma and institutional silence. So let's talk about the astrology of the date of this incident, which is Monday, September 15th, 2025. The moon is in Cancer. So at the time of discovery. So we don't actually know what time, and that's an important distinction. So I'm gonna make it so y'all don't have to put anything crazy in the comments, okay? While we don't know the exact moment that this incident occurred, at the time of the discovery, the moon was in Cancer. And the moon represents the body. It also represents the mood or the headspace of the public, particularly connected to emotion, right? And ancestral memory. Cancer is the sign of lineage, of home, and of the waters that govern memory. Those of you who have taken my course From the Water to the Water know that we talk a lot, or if you've read my book or taken the course, about from the water to the water, you know, we talk a lot about water's connection to memory. When the discovery occurs under, or when crimes like this are discovered under a Cancer moon, the body becomes a vessel for collective remembrance. And it is also a prompt for community grief to surface and to come in floods, right? So being that this discovery was made during a Cancer moon, it absolutely invites public outpour, you know, another word associated with water, right? An outpouring of emotion, an outpouring of rage. That's what that moon brings. The Cancer moon on September 15th had recently ingressed, placing the mourning family in its ancestral water current. It was also applying through Cancer towards Jupiter in Cancer. And this is actually going to be, I guess, full on September 16th. And this configuration amplifies emotion and communal response around family and tribe themes. So this is something that's going to hit home. People who feel very close to this community, whether it be the community around this university, whether it be people who just say, hey, he's part of my Africans in America community, or whether it be people who are actually blood related to him or in community with Trey, they are going to really feel the emotionality of this moment due to the moon being in Cancer. The sun is in Virgo at this time, okay? And Virgo governs institutions, procedures, and the management of facts. At this time, Mercury is not in retrograde. It is direct in Virgo. So this is favoring clarity in principle. But that clarity depends on the intent of those who hold the information. So while the energy of Virgo is going to, the influence of Virgo is going to govern what's happening with the procedures and the management of the facts, and everything should be right and exact, we still are at the mercy of those who hold the information. So they may be gathering the information and it may be being organized well, but it doesn't matter to us if we never receive it, right? They may be acquiring the information and organizing it well enough to know that they need to zip it up, well enough to know that they may need to cover some things up. They may be doing a hell of a job investigating for the benefit of making sure that those institutions are not negatively affected by this happening on their watch. So that's something for us to really take into account with this case and the timing of it, okay? Under these circumstances, and I'm talking specifically about the sun in Virgo and Mercury in Virgo, under this particular sky, administrative choices such as what to release and when are part of, let's just call it a ritual. And Virgo's shadow can be selective in its disclosure. And this selective disclosure might be masquerading as process, okay? So Virgos are going to be very thorough, or the Virgo energy is going to be very thorough in the way that, and very exacting in the way that the information is going to be gathered, organized, dealt with, but it may not be handed out transparently. That's what I want y'all to really understand, okay? And the way that information is concealed may be hidden in what we are told as the public is procedure. Okay, so we need to see through that and know what's happening when we see that. Mars is in Libra, or was in Libra at the time of the discovery of this body. So Mars governs conflict. Most of you guys know that. Libra frames it in the language of balance and optics. Mars in Libra often manifests as projected aggression, conflict handled or staged through public relations, and the politics of appearances. So I'm absolutely appalled at what I'm hearing and what I'm conveying to you right now, because there's going to be smoke and mirrors, y'all. It's written in the stars. There's going to be smoke and mirrors. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. In a campus context, this can look like swift messaging to manage perception while the underlying conflict remains unaddressed. Okay. Now let's talk about Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter magnifies whatever it touches. In Cancer, it swells in grief, family, identification, and tribal responses. Public emotion grows larger than official scripts. So Jupiter is going to magnify the emotionality that's coming through Cancer. Okay. So I said earlier that there's going to be a lot of emotionality that's connected to the moon as well. People are going to be losing their minds about this. I do feel like it's going to be quieter than some other cases that we've seen. That's my intuition saying that. And that's also me being very much aware of how things happen in Mississippi. And this being an old story. So while people may be going through it, hearts may be broken, somebody's at home throwing dishes down on the floor, right? Losing their Black minds. But I don't think that we will hear about it on a national level. And that's just the way things happen in Mississippi. So just to recap the energy of the day, the sky on September 15th concentrates ancestral memory, procedural control, optics management, and deferred accountability. That is a signature for emotionally explosive public grief, tight administrative framing, and karmic pressure on institutions not to bypass the deeper truth. Okay? So I said what I said, and y'all heard what I said. There's going to be a lot of smoke and mirrors about this case. I'm not going to look at Trey's individual astrology at this time. And I'm doing that out of respect for this young man. I want as much of his power and echoes of his energy to remain whole for him to make his transition. I do believe that this will be the first of at least a couple of episodes. I may later look at his astrology to see if there's anything that might indicate an end such as this one, but I just don't want to do that right now. I don't want to look at his astrology. I want him to make a safe and speedy return to the land of the ancestors, and he can do that best if I'm not digging into his aura. Okay, let's talk about some metaphysical laws that might be. Actually, I'm going to do a reading at this moment. Before I look into the metaphysical law, I want to look at what do we need to know specifically about anything concerning Trey Reed as an individual, anything concerning who he represents and who he's connected to culturally, and any other thing that might give us insight on why him and what particularly happened to him. Okay. So the first reading was, ancestors, do we need to do the reading? And they said yes. Now let us look at what we need to know. What do we need to know about this case? A lot of stuff jumping out at me, y'all. Okay. So let y'all take a look at the board. I know you don't know what you're looking at, but just for the sake of transparency, the first thing I see here is the die on 6 over the baby. So this is saying that this young man, may his soul rest in perfect power. He is experiencing harmony now. Okay. So he's not, the baby is at rest, is what they're saying. So he is well on his way to the land of the ancestors, and all is well. I think that the people that love him are probably doing a lot more suffering than he is in this moment. Okay, up here, I have the battery and tiger's eye over the goddess. Okay, so this is talking about royalty. Let me show y'all this. You can see that right here. All right. So we have the battery and the tiger's eye. So this is talking about giving power to royalty, giving power to regalia, to reclaiming those lost attributes that come as a result of white supremacy, I would say. And the reason I'm saying that is because this goddess is holding a mirror in her hand. And you heard earlier in the reading, I talked about the moon's energy, and I talked about things. And I don't know if I said it, but I felt that moon energy had to do with reflections and reflecting what is happening, what has been happening in this society, and the undercurrent that even when things look like they're advancing, the undercurrent that remains the same type of energy and infrastructure or lack thereof that would allow a young man to be hung by his neck from a tree on a college campus. That's a heavy undercurrent. That's a ridiculous set of circumstances that something like that can happen. And so let me get back on track. So this combination of the battery and the tiger's eye over the goddess holding the mirror is saying, don't forget to remember who you are. And don't forget to remember how you got here. Give power to your memories and your understanding. Give power to the inspiration and creativity, because that's what this tiger's eye is about, that comes through those memories and that has you situated as you are in this moment. Okay. And I'm gonna leave that at that. Okay. So then over the spring, I have the fish vertebrae. So this is saying that in the beginning, and I don't really know when the beginning was, but in the beginning, we went with the flow. And then I have over here, over the fall, I have the anchor upside down. So this is saying y'all have abided this long enough, right? These kinds of things have been happening. In the beginning, you just went with the flow. You let it happen either out of fear or lack of something that made you not react the way that you could have. And now you're losing your mind. Now you are an upside down anchor. You can't hold each other down. You can't hold it down. Hundreds of years after these types of things started happening, they're still happening because you just went with the flow. And now you're anchored to nothing but a bunch of sadness and ancestral memories. And y'all forgive me for pausing because I'm receiving and trying to filter out and decide what to say. Over communication, I have the hematite. So the hematite over communication is saying we need to talk about it. You know, we need to talk about it. We need to not let this case die. We need to not let it go quiet or go stale. We need to demand answers. We need to keep talking, keep making noise, keep ringing the bell, which is what this battery over the goddess is talking about. Keep ringing that bell. Keep giving power. Keep giving power to it. Over the, you see a person in a meditative state. I have snowflake Jasper. This is saying we need to think differently, right? While we're meditating, while we're sitting here pondering, we need to think differently about what we're experiencing and about what we're seeing and about what to do next. We need to think differently than we have before, differently than we are right now. We need to do something different because this story right here, a young man in his prime being found hanging from a tree by his neck, that's an old story. We've been seeing that. That's been happening to us. We've got to do different things if we want to expect things to be different. So we need to think differently. Our meditations need to be different. Over the house, I have the closed bottle cap. And this bottle cap also has an apple over it. And when I think of apple, I think of apple for my teacher, right? I think about learning something. I think about an exchange for information. So over the house, I have the closed bottle cap with an apple on it. And what that is saying to me is that in this house, the state of Mississippi, there's nothing more that we need to learn. The bottle is closed. We know what Mississippi has to offer. It's not a mystery. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. It's the land of inequity and danger for Black people. That's the house. That's what that house is built of. It's built out of the bones of our ancestors. Over the clown, let me show you this. Over the clown, I have the brass ring. And the brass ring over the clown is saying the things that you want are silly, ridiculous. The things that you're worrying about are not the things that you should be worried about. The things that you want are not going to get you what you need. So we're reaching for a brass ring that doesn't actually serve us. Over the blindfold, I have the skull. And so that is saying that the blindfolds are off. We don't need to know exactly who did it because we already know who did it. We know who's been doing it. It's not a mystery. They don't even have to wear a hood anymore. That's how comfortable we are with this energy. That's how much we know what's going on. Let me show you this. Over caution. You see the caution tile? I get the transformation stone. Careful for what? Careful for what? If you're going to die anyway, what are you being careful for? Is what they're saying. If it's dangerous anyway, what are you being careful for? So I think that this is a call to be enraged, to be upset, not to indiscriminately riot, but to stop being politically correct. Stop being so careful that you are ineffective. Stop letting caution neutralize you, is what I'm hearing. The message from heaven is lock in, okay? Lock into this moment. Understand where you are and what the ask is. couple of other things, you guys, I want to show you. Sorry, I got distracted because I just realized something. So over the witch, I have the die on 1. You can see that. So this is saying that we alone have to transmute this energy. We alone have to do this work. And it's also a revelation and an understanding that we are by ourselves. Over the archer, I have the anger stone. And this is saying that we need to be angry. We need to be angry about this young man that lost his life. He is angry. He's angry. He is mad as hell, and rightfully so. He's saying he was always careful, which is what this transformation stone over caution is. He was always careful. He was by himself when this happened, which is what this. So y'all, if you see what's happening, I'm reading for him individually and I'm reading for the community too. He saw who did this to him. That's what this skull over the blindfold is about. He was able to see what happened to him. The fact that this happened in the school, you remember when I saw this at first, when I was reading for the community, I said, this apple on this bottle cap makes me think about, an apple for my teacher. And that's exactly what he's saying. He's saying that he thought that he was safe at school. He thought that he was safe at school. There's shock and outrage and anger and disappointment that I'm reading from him. Okay. So those are the things that we need to know about this case. Our call to action and a little bit of what I'm able to pick up from the echoes of Trey's energy. I'm going to go back to my report and just wrap a little bow on this situation for the moment. Let's talk about the metaphysical laws at work here, okay? The law of mentalism is the first one. Everything, all is mind, is what the law of mentalism says. So every narrative is a mental construction. Under Mercury in Virgo, clarity is possible, but it depends on the will of the people, the will of the community, the will of the culture, okay? If you will or not, right? It depends on will. Institutional mind can shape public perception or it can free it, right? So if all is in the mind, then we need to be on one accord about this. And all things that happen in our community, really. We have to police our own communities. We have to do that for ourselves and for those that we are responsible for. And so if all is mind, then our minds need to be focused on getting answers, okay? The law of vibration states that nothing rests. The Mississippi Delta holds a long resonance of racial terror. A Black student found hanging on campus vibrationally re-triggers that field, regardless of what the officials have to say about it. We know what we are seeing here. We know what we are seeing, and we know what we are feeling. And those of you who have never set foot in Mississippi and may not even have any relatives that you can put your hands on who are from there, you still know what you're feeling. And somebody like me with family from Mississippi who grew up in and out of Mississippi, right? Visiting Mississippi, traveling up and down the highway because it's where I'm from, that area. I know exactly what I'm looking at too, okay? The law of cause and effect, which says that causality is inexorable, meaning you can't escape it, okay? If elements have been concealed, physically or administratively, the effects will keep surfacing until the cause is faced. The eclipse corridors accelerate such revelations. So if there is a positive attribute to what's happening, it's the fact that this event happened during an eclipse corridor, which means that it is likely what's done in the dark comes to the light, amplified. Okay, that energy is amplified. So we are likely then to benefit from that exposure. The law of correspondence is also at work here. As above, so below. The moon, Jupiter in Cancer, it swells, right? So there's a collective mourning below. So you have this happening with Jupiter, with the moon in Cancer, and it's going to contribute to, as I said earlier, I talked about how the emotions are going to run very high. We're going to see a lot of that. And if we don't see it, because remember I said there's like a hush over Mississippi. If we don't see it, that energy is going to be felt, especially if we are tapped into it and we're looking for it. So there's going to be a lot of mourning. What I hope, though, is that people are not paralyzed by it. I hope that it's a mourning that brings people to action rather than paralysis. So the Orisha that I'd like to talk about that is connected to this case, and I'm only saying connected to it because of the type of energy, y'all, that we need to conjure, the type of energy that we need to manifest, to assist with this case, and that is Ochosi, okay? Ochosi is the divine hunter. Ochosi is the archer. Ochosi is the archetype of precision, tracking, and truth piercing. Ochosi is invoked when deception clouds the trail and when public stories diverge from the facts. Ochosi has to do with, or is concerned with, justice and the underdog, particularly women and children. And while this wasn't a baby, he was a very young man at school. Okay? So we need, Ochosi, we need your energy. We need you involved and concerned with this case. We need the aspects of you that reside in us to turn on at full power and strength so that we can do whatsoever we can that aligns with our destiny to bring healing to our community as a result of this incident. Ashe. And the Odu Ifa that I thought about when I was preparing this case is Ogundameji, for obvious reasons, for those of you who are familiar with Odu. The core themes of Ogundameji, and these are general, not specific, okay? This is not an Odu class, so let's not do that. But some of the energies present in this Odu are unrest, particularly inside of societal structures or institutions. It can also has to do with betrayal, masked as order, unscrupulous behaviors of those in power, oppressors, progress through conflict, not around it, right? Ogun energy, right? You're going to have to fight your way through to a solution, claw your way to the truth, demand it, fight for it. Okay. There's a historical shadow over this incident, and there's a lot of ancestral residue with regard to lynchings. A Black student found hanging in Mississippi will never be a neutral incident. It's never going to go unnoticed. People are never going to not talk about it. Okay. Even where officials say that there is no foul play, this image, the image of it, which thank God I didn't see any images released. But the image that my third eye produces about it, it reopens ancestral wounds. And I'm sure that's true for you guys too. And what we don't remember as individuals, the earth herself, Iyanifa, remembers, right? She's been born witness to that strange fruit hanging from a tree. So this is very ancestral. And because of that, because of the psychic residue surrounding this, people are either going to be paralyzed by it, which I said earlier. They're going to find themselves being fearful. They're going to find themselves being afraid and therefore being inactive, or they're going to be angered to the point where they want to act. And I would say be precise. I would say remember the energy that we are trying to conjure and call in with regard to this case is Ochosi, which is precision. The archer, think about a bow and an arrow that's going to hit its target. Be precise. Don't just be mad just to be mad. Don't just knock everything down, right? We need to be precise. So, in conclusion, on the morning of Monday, September 15th, 2025, under a Cancer moon, a Virgo sun, the Mars in Libra, Jupiter in Cancer, and Saturn in retrograde, between two eclipses, a young man was found hanging from a tree at Delta State University. His name was Trey Reed. And I want to just take a moment of silence, you guys. I'm receiving so much chatter. Let us just take a moment and just breathe deeply. Tap in, ask your ancestors, those walking with you, those in your spiritual court, to reveal to you and through you what you need to know and whatever it is that you can do to make things better for those of us who are aware of this incident and affected by it. And just breathe through any disagreeable energy that you feel. Breathe through any fear that you may feel bubbling up. Breathe through any uncertainty, knowing that you know exactly what to do and you have everything that you need to do it. Breathe through any anger that you feel, because it is always a poor advisor. Breathe into power, knowing that you have everything that you need to do everything that you want to do. Breathe into purpose, knowing that you will be fully empowered to do those things that only you can do, like you can do them. and then come back. I thank you guys for joining me today. This is a very sad case, and I'm sure there will be more information that will come out. This eclipse corridor that this event happened in guarantees that there will be exposure. So we just need to be on the lookout for it. We need to remain open, sharing information, sharing ideas, organizing in the ways that we can. And we will continue to look at this case, and I'll be back with updates as I receive them and as I am so led. I really, really thank you guys for joining me today. It's my honor to serve and to say what I see and to reveal all that I can. Thank you. So that was for the purpose of the recording. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take those before I sign off completely. Anybody? I do too. Stormy says she hopes the family gets a private autopsy and do not rely on Mississippi law enforcement. They cannot. I think that the government will do an autopsy. They have to, I believe. It's just common practice. The question, though, is if it will be done right and exact, and if they will reveal what needs to be revealed with regard to that autopsy. But I agree with you, Stormy. I hope they get one. It is likely that the so-called officials are involved. I hope that Dr. Gabriel, I hope that the officials are not involved in the incident. They are absolutely involved in the cover-up and the stalling of information. But for some reason, I think you could be correct. But I hope that that's not true. But we're going to find out. It's going to come out. Jordan says, I feel like it was touched on with the law of mentalism and Ochosi energy, but in the beginning, it was said that we do not currently have the medicine that we need to heal. Is there something more? Well, we're going to continue to look at it and read on it. I don't have the answers, Jordan, and I wish I did. I'm not sure exactly what we need to do to heal completely from the trauma. I don't think that we are able to heal yet because we're still being stabbed and jabbed and juked. You know what I'm saying? Babies are still getting hung from trees. It's difficult to heal under those conditions. It's difficult to heal under those conditions. That's the hard part. No matter how careful we are, even when we are in places where we are supposed to be safe. Exactly. Yeah. The apple over the house on my board. That's what Trey, that's what his energy was reflecting, was resonating with. He thought he would be safe at school. This wasn't supposed to happen, not there. It's crazy. The only thing that has truly changed is the year and the technology used, but lynching has never stopped. That's right. That is right, Priestess. And that's a shame. It isn't as if we don't want to heal. It isn't as if like we're not trying, but it's like a chronic illness. Yeah. What is the chemo for this cancer that plagues our people? Well, knowledge is power, I think. I think we have to become as excellent as we possibly can in terms of education. I think that we have to call a thing by its name. And I think when we see racism, we have to say it. And when we see cover-ups happening, we have to call that out. And when we see a mishandling of information and resources and every other thing that gets mishandled, we need to call it out. And I think that we need to organize also, organize our thoughts, organize our efforts. I mean, there's so many things that we can do. And I'm doing my part. I'm doing what I can do. I'm here, you know, um, doing my reading and sharing my gifts. And I think that we all just have to figure out what it is that we can do to contribute and assist. Well, I thank you all for being here. I am going to sign off now. I have another obligation. About to be right back in front of the camera in about 17 minutes. So I'm going to stretch my legs and wet my whistle. And I will see you guys on the next edition of Metaphysical Autopsy. As soon as we have more information and we are able to do our own research, I am going to come back with another edition. Okay. Thank you guys for so much for joining me. I love y'all deep, like the river.
Nobody talks about you, then you are nobody.